to the FOSS4G North America B2B session. For those of you who aren't familiar with the objective of B2B, it is to have some cocktails, to network, but most importantly to forge networks, partnerships, problem-solving teams, whatever you want to call it, that last well beyond these next few days, right? So in this room we have technologists, innovators, business leaders, representatives from government who are familiar with problems. We have some of the finest developers who gave workshops today and who will be giving several technical talks throughout the week. So everybody is here. It's not just us, right? There are a lot of people who aren't here. They're also part of that community. And we try to iteratively improve upon this event every year. That being said, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to top this one. So with that, none of this happens without a couple of people. One is Brian Monheiser. Thanks, Brian. Not only does he have one of the best haircuts in the room, but he's probably one of the hardest charging industry folks that you'll ever meet. So thanks, Brian, for putting us together. And also Greater St. Louis Inc., who is our sponsor for this event. It would not happen without Greater St. Louis Inc. So with that, I would like to introduce Maggie Coast. She will say a few words.
So it's an honor to welcome all of you, the FOSS4G open source community, here to St. Louis. Our team has been so excited about this event and what it represents, what you all are going to be talking about and doing over the next couple of days. We are absolutely enamored with Geospatial in St. Louis, if you don't know that already. As Ryan kind of alluded to, I represent Greater St. Louis Inc. We are the business and civic community in St. Louis. We help to grow inclusive growth, to expand inclusive growth in our community across the 15-county metro. And we see geospatial technology as a huge part of that inclusive growth. In fact, you'll see the signs, the banners behind me here. The GeoFutures initiative is one of our core initiatives at GSL. And really, it's all about that geospatial ecosystem and how we're going to grow that ecosystem over the next 10 years. Of course, it was founded in large part at the time when the NGA decided to keep their Western headquarters here in St. Louis and make that almost $2 billion investment just a mile north of where we're standing right now. We see that as an incredible anchor in this ecosystem, but we think there's so much more potential beyond NGA. And we're so excited that you're here to see it for yourself in our community this week and be here with us. And there are so many great opportunities to engage our geospatial ecosystem this week beyond FOSS4G, and we hope that you'll stay here for geo-resolution and some of the other things that are going on. Thank you all so much. I know we've got a great speaker lined up here for you, and can't wait to have conversations throughout the week with all of you and have you see what's going on here in St. Louis. Thank you all so much. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Thanks again, Maggie. Nice to meet you, Greater St. Louis Inc. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this event, an extraordinary innovator in St. Louisian, did I say that correctly? St. Louisian, who has left an indelible mark on both the tech world and entrepreneurship. Many of you know him as the co-founder of Square, the groundbreaking financial services company that revolutionized small business payments by turning smartphones into card readers. But he is more than just an entrepreneur. He's also an engineer, artist, and philanthropist with a deep-rooted passion for building solutions that challenge the status quo. Jim is also an author. His book, The Innovation Stack, Building an Unbeatable Business One Crazy Idea at a Time, has some great quotes and themes. Some of those include, every perfect problem has a perfect solution. One of my favorites, oysters do not choose to make pearls. And one I think that is very fitting to our open source community of innovators and users, copying is part of the innovation process. We can strategically imitate existing ideas or capabilities and build upon them in unique ways. What makes Jim's story particularly relevant to this audience is his approach to innovation. He didn't just set out to disrupt the payments industry by following the traditional playbook. Instead, he used open, accessible technology to solve a problem for everyday people. With Square, he and his team embraced a spirit of collaboration, simplicity, and transparency, values that resonate deeply with our open source community. His commitment to solving complex problems extends beyond Square. He is a driving force behind LaunchCode, a nonprofit that opens doors for aspiring coders and developers, providing them with the skills and opportunities they need to thrive in the tech world. Another ethos that aligns with the open source movement's ideals of accessibility and shared knowledge. Please join me in welcoming the true visionary, Jim McKelvey.
Thank you. Sorry, the intro is longer than the speech. But I'm really happy to be here because this is a Geo conference. So I thought we'd start with a Geo quiz. This is the region of the world that happens to have, this is the deadliest region of the world. Per square mile, there are more things that will kill you in this part of the planet than any place else. So all you Geo people, does anyone recognize what this area is? It's the Amazon. Yeah, Australia is pretty deadly, so are parts of this city. But there are more things that will kill you in the Amazon than anywhere else. But I'm from the world of business, and the deadliest things in business can also be traced to the Amazon. And I want to tell you a story about when we started Square. So Square was a startup. We started basically 2009, and in 2013 we had a pretty good company going. We were growing really fast. We had a nice business. We were, a couple $1 million, and Jeff Bezos decided that he wanted to just take our market. So when Jeff does this, Amazon always runs the same playbook. They copy your product, they undercut you 30% in price, and then they add the Amazon brand name, which of course everybody in here is an Amazon customer. Some of you pay Amazon to put a listening device in your houses. Okay. They're very hard to compete with. And so when Amazon attacked us, everyone thought Square was dead, and it felt sort of like that. So we looked at what we could do to fight Amazon. And there were really very few things we could do. We wanted to, go ahead and get that. We would love to have their brand. We would love to have their cash. We would love to be able to sustain losses indefinitely. We really couldn't do very much to beat Amazon at their own game. So in the end, we did precisely nothing. And the amazing thing is, it worked. Which I was very happy about. My company survived. And yet, after a couple of weeks, this also started to bother me because the question was, what happened differently? Because if you look at the history of Amazon versus any startup, they are a 100% death machine. They've never lost. Diapers.com, everyone remember that? Zappa, anybody who goes up against Amazon either gets bought by Amazon or just wiped off the map. So Square survived. And this led me to question what the hell happened. So I spent 3 years researching it. I wrote a book on the topic. You don't want me to talk about the book, you can read it if you want. But the book outlined some basic principles that I think are sort of under-discussed, which is to say, we sort of hold up innovation as this thing that we should all be doing all the time. Like, innovating should be like something we do every day. And I don't think that's true. I think innovation is sort of a last resort. I mean, you're sort of forced to innovate. And the companies that I studied, these ones who had been forced to innovate, ended up in a different space. And they were forced there because, look, innovation is deeply unpleasant. I hope there's no innovation in the food, right? Like, I hope that whoever made, these things didn't just, sort of find some new species the human had never encountered, roll them in something that mankind had never, and fry them up and feed them to this guy. Like, that's just not good odds. So if you look at the course of sort of great invention, you see this pattern emerge, which is you back little people into corners enough, and eventually they fight back. And so the open source community is us fighting back. And Jack and I have been doing open source development since 1995. When Jack was first a summer intern with me at a company that I actually still have in St. Louis, he was working on a device driver for part of the Linux operating system. And ever since then, we have been huge supporters because these are powerful tools, and the tools that you have make such a difference. One of the reasons we were able to do the things we were able to do at Square is that by the time we launched, we had this phenomenal tool set. So the iPhone had just come out. So instead of having to build our own little supercomputers, instead of having to put displays and build our own hardware, well, we just wrote to the iPhone. And then we figured out how to make it read credit cards, which was kind of a hack. But open source was it was critical to us having the tools. Tools are not all you need. I think it's also really important that you have the ability to use it. And I was going to put a picture of Bill Gates here. Bill's a little litigious. He's quite a good philanthropist, but back in the 90s, I remember him forcing me every couple years to buy a new version of SQL Server and sometimes to port my code to his new crap that I didn't want because my old stuff worked. And he's like, no, Jim, we're not going to support that anymore. Give us another 50 grand. So it is not just about having the tools. It's also about not having to get permission to use the tools. And again, I think this is one of the areas where open source really excels because nobody has to ask, please. You could just go do it. If you have the technical skills, then you have the technical tools, and then you can actually make something really interesting happen. And then there's a third thing that, and again, I didn't even talk about this in the book, but I figured I should mention because I think it is something that I left out of the book, which is that teams work. And we all went through this terrible pandemic where we all, sort of worked remotely, and working remotely kind of worked for a while. And for some of us who were, sort of deeply antisocial, remote work has been a godsend. But for a lot of us, the interconnections, the accidental collisions, the thing that's about to happen when I stop talking and you guys start drinking, those are magic. And this is the team at Bell Labs that developed the original transistor. And if you think about what we've been able to do as humans, and you trace it back to the really big breakthroughs, they were usually breakthroughs where they were these sort of chaotic places like Bell Labs. Mom Bell had so much money back then. They would just hire the best people and lock them up. And all of northern New York was full of these sort of geniuses who would run into each other. And the collaborations, Xerox PARC, another great example. There are literally hundreds of examples. And if you have the tools and you have the team, then you have the potential to do something really wonderful. So I just wanted to welcome you to my city. Look, St. Louis is a town that has had tremendous success, and then we've had a bunch of failures. And right now there's a group of us that are trying to rebuild this wonderful city, the city that I love. And one of the things that we are doubling down on hard is geospatial technology. And what we are trying to do here is to create another genius cluster. The NGA gave us a giant start, $2 billion, thank you very much. John Berglund here put $130 million into a...
I think that was you, John. I think that was you. I just aimed, I think it was your money.
It was my money, well,
Yeah.
he did all the work. I wrote the check. we've got a $130 million project right next to it, and then right next to us, we got the global. So we are trying to create another Genius cluster. It's not going to be another Bell Labs, but it will hopefully be a community where if you're interested in this area, you should have somebody here participating. So with no further ado, let's get to the important stuff, which is those collisions. Thanks for coming to St. Louis.
I'm sorry, they asked me if I wanted to take questions.
We could do a couple of questions if you care. Unless, don't be shy. I will not be offended if you guys just want to drink. Oh, yes, sir.
I'd love to hear 75 seconds on your opinion on spatial finance.
So spatial finance is just better info. Okay. I mean, look. So I'm in the money moving world these days. If you have better information, you move money better. If you can see what's about to happen, or what has happened, or what is progressively happening, but at a rate that's too slow for other people to notice, then you have an advantage. If you have an advantage, then you can price better. So I'm completely in favor of it because it's just better use of information. You guys all understand what spatial finance is, right? Is this group? Okay. Yeah.
Assume we don't.
Okay, so you don't. It's me with a satellite looking at something that gives me information that says, oh, these guys flood every 20 years, or this area is changing temperature, or the climate is doing this in this area. It is using geographical information from space to make decisions. Now, I was using the example of weather. If you want to extend the definition, you can also see who's moving boats and who's moving trucks. And one of the best examples of spatial finance that I ever used was we were looking at investing in a strip center near a Walmart. And Walmarts are not all Walmarts. You guys know the difference between a good Walmart and a bad Walmart. You know how to tell that from a satellite?
Parking lot?
The parking lot. Yeah. But you never know when they take the photo. So you can't just look for a full parking lot. But what you can look for is the oil that is deposited on the parking lot surface by repeated customers. And you see how far that oil goes back out, and you can make a decision. Spatial finance.
There you go. Cheers.
Okay, I'll take two more and then we'll drink. Or we'll just drink. Cool, done, thanks.